Hello. Hi. Tales from the Shed. Who knew? We're back.
We're back on Tales from the Shed. And we were actually just talking about being a victim.
Yes.
So yes, tell us more about that, because it sounds like being a victim, like we're blaming and things like that. So we were talking about what it feels, why people become
Yes, and
victims.
also when we experience it. I think it's like when we experience it from somebody, and because I was having a conversation with my daughter and she was talking about something, she called it being passive aggressive. And then she explained to me what was happening. I was thinking, that goes beyond passive, mate. That is aggressive. Anyway, but it was like, but it wasn't violent in a sense, but it was in the words that we used.
You have failed me.
Yes.
By being something.
Why didn't you know such and such? Why? And it's that kind of thing where people say, why didn't you look after me? Why didn't you know somehow telepathically that this is what I wanted you to do? And then if you do it, it's never good enough. So there's a kind of whole mixture of, and the victim for me, and I guess it reminded me of, it's a course that I met my current husband on. I have to say that it's like the current husband, but anyway,
until he's replaced.
He's a keeper.
But no.
But they talked about how, whether it's consciously or unconsciously, that most people go through life as if they're a victim of it, that things happen to me, that things happen to them, that they're not in control of it, that it's just their bad luck, it's just awful, and so in order, that also comes with the opposite, is they can't do anything about it.
Yes,
they are not in control, they can't possibly do something about it.
They've been
and all the rest of it. And I think, and this is what I was having this conversation with my daughter about, and thinking about, yes, it's very difficult, and we were talking about how we often get sucked in. Because it's normally, you have these conversations, it's not just with people that you don't like, it's sometimes people that you like a lot. And then you're kind of saying, so they're kind of saying, why didn't you? I thought you should. Why didn't you know that I wanted you to bring me a cup of tea, whatever it is? But if you kind of engage with them, if you say, but I did offer and I did do this, and I respond, they've always got some other reason why you didn't fulfill
feeding
what
the
they
beast,
wanted.
isn't it?
Yeah,
because I think when somebody becomes a victim, it's often how they're really nice and kind and for them, if only. But when you look underneath it, there's often real anger or jealousy or aggression. Very often it's jealousy which is underneath. It's like, I haven't, for me, and they take it out on somebody. So I see that quite a lot.
I had a friend many years ago when we lived up in Leeds, and it was like, it seemed to be, so she was single for whatever reason, and she lived on her own, and it felt to me that she really resented the fact that I was quite happily married and had a house and had a child and all these kind of different things, and why could she never get a relationship? It seemed to be my fault.
I've also seen it the other way around. You're single, you haven't got as many debts, you're footless and fancy free to go abroad and have a job or not have a job. I'm stuck with my kids, my life is so awful, they're costing me a fortune, and it's all right for you because you don't have kids. It's all right for you, you don't have parents that are ill. You're lucky your parents died when you were young or something. I've heard all of this stuff that instead of just looking at it as, this is my life and this is what I've got, it just becomes I want what I've got plus all the bits of your life as well.
And I quite liked, because you said you've got quite a good technique, and you're talking about the boxing ring.
The boxing ring. So I see a lot of people, which is the worst kind of victim, which is abuse, people in abusive relationships. So they have this abusive relationship and they get drawn in. You typically, and I do have a couple of men that are in a terrible situation, but typically the woman is the victim, and the man goes, but you know, if only you had done this for me, if only you had done that. And they go, I'm really sorry, I didn't know. Well, you must have known. No, I didn't know. And it goes backwards and forwards. So I always say, think of it as a boxing ring, and in that boxing ring you've got Muhammad Ali and George Foreman.
Yes, both quite good at what they do.
Both very good at what they do.
Exactly.
So we're not saying one's good and one's bad, which is what a lot of people think. And the whole point of Muhammad Ali was he was going, come closer.
Yeah, you think you're big enough. Yeah.
You think you know, I bet if you came closer, you could land a punch. So George Foreman steps a little bit closer and gets walloped because he's very good at that.
Yeah.
And using just that analogy of it's a play. If you've got an abuser, it's a play. It's a play. How can I draw you closer so that I can make you feel bad? Not necessarily do have physical, but it's much more of an emotional punch.
Yes, definitely.
You're bad, you're not good enough. If you loved me, if you cared, if you were a nice person. So they draw you in. So you start, they call something. So you go, no, that wasn't it, but I did, and I did. But I did, and I always make your breakfast, and I thought whatever that happens to be, and then it like lands the punch.
So they can still tell you your shit. Yeah.
That's right. So if you never enter that space, you don't enter that little boxing ring.
Yeah.
And it's just like, you did that to me, and you go, did I? Who knew?
Who knew?
Or it's kind of like, really? That's interesting.
Yeah.
But if you don't actually enter the space, you can never get landed.
So you've got to stay out of the boxing ring.
Stay out of the boxing ring. Or people have like a circle of energy around them. If you stay outside, they can never touch you. But it means that you live in your own energy.
Yes.
And when you've been a victim, it's very hard to know your own energy. And again, if you are pursuing other people to be a victim, you've got into a habit that often works.
Yes.
And you've got in a habit that works, and you actually don't always realize what you're doing. You're feeling jealous, you're feeling angry,
and when I do it like this, then this has happened. It's a bit like, and I suppose it's like those awful childcare manuals that would kind of say, when the baby cries, just leave it to cry, you know, and you're going, oh, how does that work? Not very well. But it is that whole thing of when they get a bit older and they're just being really annoying, and you pay attention to them, even if it is, you know, if you do that again, I'm going to kill you, whatever it is. You know, even if it's kind of not a nice response. Yeah, but I got some attention off you, didn't I? Yeah. So it's a bit like that. If I do this, let's see how bad I can be, because I know I'm going to get the attention. Because
it's bringing back, and then they go, I'm really sorry, I didn't know. Well, you should have known, but I didn't know. But and it gains
no logic in it. Yeah.
And I interesting you say that, because another analogy I use is when I had my kids very close together, very little, and every now and again they were perfect children, but every now and again they would throw a tantrum in the supermarket.
Yes.
And it would be like this scream mess, and you think, that's great, but I've still got to get the washing powder, the liquid, something for dinner, and I've got to get that packed and through, and then I've got to, and when I've got space, I'll deal with you. And it was like this whole tantrum's going on, and it was just going on over there.
Yeah.
And it's a bit like, that's my stepping out of the boxing ring. This guy's doing its stuff. I say guy. Sometimes it's the other way around. I know that. Yeah. Or it can be two girls. It can be in any situation where one is really, you're thinking, I'm feeling powerless. I'm feeling like I did the right thing, but now you're making me doubt it, where I lose. So if you're feeling your power drain away, you're feeling a bit powerless, just step outside into your ring. Step out the boxing ring and find out what you really feel. Right. What is this really about? And it's normally always about them. And also make sure you're not doing that to others. Yeah.
So I think that's a good place to leave it, because it is that thing of, look at how those relationships are for you. Are you having somebody who is either being a victim, making you feel like obliged or bad about what yourself is? But just see what happens if you step out of the boxing ring.
Don't fight the victim. Just step outside it and think, was this good or bad? Did I mean that? Yeah. No. And just have that. So I think,
brilliant.
That's good.
Out of the boxing ring.